Welcome to the
Hi
Curtain
Karthik.
Raiser. Hi, Ajay. Great to see you after a long time.
Great to be here.
So, welcome to the Curtain Raiser for the NASSCOM Design and Engineering East Summit. We are just 2 days away from the much awaited and highly acclaimed event. I'm Karthik Natarajan, co chair of NASSCOM's ER&D Council, Chief Operating Officer of Cyient, and I'm also in a live session chat with Ajay Prabhu, chair of the NASSCOM ER&D Council, and also Chief Operating Officer of Quest Global. Welcome, Ajay, to the session.
Hey, thanks, Karthik.
So, over the past couple of decades, we have seen India has emerged as a preferred destination for global engineering R&D services, and various industry reports that suggest that more than 90% of the top 100 R&D spenders are already in India, and more than 55% of top 500 global R&D spenders have their centers in India, working with service providers, having set up their own centers. And also, NASSCOM estimates the global spend on engineering R&D is going to be close to $1.5 trillion mark by 2025-26, of which about at least about $200 billion would be done outside of the home base or in best cost countries. As the
Mhm.
largest exporter of ER&D services, this has huge implications for India, and it is a great opportunity, which is as large as $100 billion. And Ajay, you and me spoke about in the last 8 or 9 months. We are thinking of calling this as a dream in terms of how do you think we get to this $100 billion in the next 5 to 7 years.
Absolutely.
Against this backdrop, NASSCOM has been holding an annual engineering and design summit for the past 11 years, and we are headed towards our 12th event in the series. And this is going to be something different, which is virtual and global, and with an intent of redesigning global ER&D for the new world order. Let's dwell into a Q&A format to start with. I would also request the audience to feel free to ask questions, and please participate in this session with your challenging questions or your comments. And you can probably talk about what is the most disruptive thing that is happening globally, which is important for us to talk about. Please do share your views and opinions as well. And here are the two engineering minds trying to answer what India requires to innovate for the world. And before that, a question to the audience, maybe can you look back maybe 5 or 6 years more, think of a sci-fi show that you marveled at, and today, thanks to the new age technology, that's being made as a possibility. So, waiting for your answers. And now let's start the discussion, Ajay. The first question to you. India has been an emerging epicenter of global ER&D market, and the future growth would be driven by need for innovation and to meet the growing demand and the fast evolving the consumer preferences. How do you think India Inc. needs to ready itself to innovate for the world?
Okay, great. So first of all, great to be here, Karthik. Again, looking forward to putting up this design and engineering summit or annual event in the next couple of days. So very excited about that. So you just said it's an emerging epicenter of engineering, EEE. That kind of resonated well with me, emerging epicenter of engineering. And I think it is truly that we already have more than 600,000 engineers in the engineering ER&D, among 1,500 plus companies that are involved in doing engineering, and that spans everything that you can think of engineering, of all sorts of things. And we have had a fantastic evolution over the last 25 years or so in creating this industry where the Indian engineers are now actually not just providing service anymore. Like over the last 5 years, I think there is a very distinct migration from engineering to
Ajay, did we? while Ajay is coming on board, I would really request all the audience to look for opportunities to raise your question. Sorry, Ajay, you're back, please.
Yeah, so 75% of the top 200 engineering spenders are already in India, either with their own GCCs, global capability centers, or working through engineering service providers, right? And this industry is growing double digit already. So in the world, right? So 1 out of 1,000 people is an engineer, and that one person leverages so much, so much of what we have today and we live every day is created by an engineer or another. So and with 25% of the new engineers in the world being created by India, so India obviously has an opportunity to be that epicenter that you earlier talked about. So it's clearly a destiny for India, and I think the society has some good respect for engineering as a profession, and a lot of the youngsters are aspiring to be engineers. So that bodes well for engineering for India over the next what's important, I think, is a need for innovation. So our engineers need to think more innovatively, keep thinking about how to kind of do things better. And, that's just not just better, but cheaper also. Who doesn't want a product or a service to be cheaper every single day? So we have to really think like that. So it's very, very important for our engineers to think about the business that they are supporting, the problem, real human problem that they are addressing and solving, whether it is a productivity or in the new world today. Hey, the whole working from home, how do we make it all productive? How do we make it collaborative? How do we actually create that engineering difference for the world, right? So I think sustainable engineering. So that's whole thing. Another great opportunity for engineers. The world has, over the last 150 years, consumed so much of the world's planet's resources, and now it's maybe time to kind of mend that. There is so much opportunity for engineering in the sustainability side of things. So there's a fantastic opportunity for India to play a critical role.
Sure. No, I've just written a recent blog, Ajay. I talked about probably Indian engineers need to scale up in terms of their ability to contribute to probably talking about maybe 500,000 software engineers and about 100,000 product managers and probably 10,000 engineering heads and maybe at least about 1,000 CTOs. They can probably contribute by being the CTO of global companies. So that's a great opportunity that I see ahead of us. So moving on.
That's a great point, Karthik. That's a great point. It's not just about doing engineering, but it's doing engineering and having engineering leadership ability. Really think about the real problems in the world that you're going to solve most innovatively by taking a very, very innovative approach.
No, absolutely, absolutely, great opportunity. So moving on, Ajay, in terms of how can we truly enable people and engineering in a seamless global market? And do you think we need to focus more on building a culture of continuous education, reskilling, and future skilling our employees, and also inspiring the next generation of people to pursue engineering as a career of choice?
Yeah. So I'm very biased towards engineering. I think engineering is very natural to everybody. Whenever we have some pain, we kind of try to be innovative and remove that pain, and that's what engineering is really about. And so we have a lot of opportunity to think of this culture of learnability, rather than thinking about what skills, who has to be taught when. If we can actually get our people, our youngsters, to learn the basic skill of how do they keep themselves current, how do they become adaptable, and think about what is the most latest thing, what is it that really excites them. There has to be a balance between what is needed out there plus what they enjoy doing, right? So then bring that balance and create that learnability. The culture of learning, adaptability is, I think, what is important. And once a generation of engineers learn to do that, because see how much change has happened in the last 20 years, even last 5 years, right? So any particular skill is not so important as much as the skill to learn whatever is the next big thing, I think, is what going to matter. And I think engineers produced out of India have shown that ability to kind of continually adopt. And so I'm very optimistic that our talent continues to do that. But one important thing that you earlier mentioned, I think, is also important. Let's not just think only technical, but also think technical, techno-commercial, engineering leadership. How do we kind of shape and envision that future that is necessary? As a country, India over the next 30 years, by 2050, is going to be the third largest economy. And as a third largest economy, what kind of things India as a country needs to be doing is also important. And I hope that the youngsters really kind of scale up to that. One other thing I really want to add, especially in this situation of work from home, which I think is very conducive for more women to come into engineering. So I hope that far more women feel that they can get into engineering. If it can be done from sitting at home, why not, right? So right now it's only 13% of the engineers are women, and 50% of the people on this planet are women. So why shouldn't it be 50-50? So how do we take it further? And that's a big abundant resource that is out there. How do we integrate? How do we bring them into the engineering think force? I think is going to be critical.
No, great points, Ajay. And we've talked about this multiple times. So if you really look at it, we built this 600,000 strong engineering workforce over the last 2 decades. We need to add probably another million more engineers in the next 10 years. So we need to do this twice in half the time. I think that is definitely not possible without getting women into engineering, and which is going to be very, very critical for us to see the scale happening. There is a question
Yeah.
popping up. I thought I'll bring this up for you to answer. What do you see as the biggest impediment to monetizing the engineering outputs from Felice?
What is the monetizing what?
Monetizing the engineering output in terms of delivering the value that is being coming out of the engineers. What do you think
Yeah.
are the biggest challenges?
Yeah, first of all, I think it's not just creating. Earlier, we talked about just doing technical work, right? So one could try and do just very impressive technical work, but if you cannot communicate the value of it, what are the use cases of this technology? Many people fail in translating a technology to a certain use. So all technology needs to improve quality of life of somebody on this planet, right? I mean, we are not trying to do engineering to make things worse. Now, if we cannot communicate that and create that value around that solution, that is when things actually become harder to really create that ultimate impact as well as monetization and satisfaction for oneself.
No, absolutely, Ajay. And the third important thing that I want to bring up is the role of GCCs, the Global Capability Centers, or the customers, their own centers in India, establishing engineering and innovation capabilities out of India. And with protectionist trends like US China trade disputes, and how do you think this is going to raise important questions for India? How do you see this impacting the growth potential? And what do you see as opportunity for the global capability centers to still see the scale?
Yeah, the global capability centers, I'm very glad that you asked this question, are making a great contribution here. And not just in India, but they are making a huge amount of contributions to their parent companies all across the globe. So, in fact, 60% of our engineers, of the 600,000 engineers, are in some GCC or another, making excellent work and extremely innovative. A lot of the patents filed in India are coming out of the GCCs, and a lot of innovation, including more recently, the GCCs are contributing these world's engineering leaders back to whichever company they work at. So it's been a fantastic success over the last 25 years, how the GCCs have come up. So it's really, really an important part of the ecosystem. So in terms of the current situation of whatever political things that may be going on, these are temporary, really. I mean, in the long scheme of things, I think what is important for us to think about is that I truly believe the world moves as fast as how many engineers are there in the world that are doing some real good engineering contribution, right? And India has the demographic advantage. When you think about the next 30 years, Indian population is going to continue to increase, and the youngest engineers are going to be produced by India. We earlier talked about how 25% of the new engineers are produced in India. And so that means at some point there will be a huge quantity of engineers, provided I think we kind of continue this celebration of education in the society, where people are respected for being engineers. And engineering is not easy, right? So once that happens, I think it is inevitable that Indian engineers will get a lot of opportunity to do some really, really cool things for the world in the next 30 years. So I wouldn't worry about the current issues, but I think there is a huge opportunity for Indian engineers over a long period of time in the next 30 years, 20, 30
No,
years.
no, absolutely, Ajay. And what we also looked at was about 6,000 patents are coming out of India every year. I'm sure GCCs play a very important role. A third of engineering products are being developed out of India. And also, the most important thing, what I was hearing is some of the customers who have their centers in India run their product managements out of India. And they kind of
Absolutely.
realize that for many of them, this is either the largest center or the second largest center. So the CG is definitely shifting to India. I think that's the key part that all of us should see that, and that trend is likely to continue for the next decade as well.
Yeah, the engineering is really for making, contributing to the world. So we should not necessarily only think of this, whatever we are doing is for India only. And recently there is also a pretty good interpretation of what we mean by Atmanirbhar, right? So Atmanirbhar is not for doing things only for India, but doing for India that can be used all across the globe. So, Karthik, you've been asking me many questions, so maybe I'll get a chance to ask you one question. So, we both have been in this journey with the industry for last 20 years, specifically about this design and engineering summit we are talking about. Last 10, 20 years, how it has evolved, and why is the next one so much you are so excited about?
No, absolutely. I think we have seen this journey together. So I can tell you that how the product support that was happening maybe way back in early 2000 has moved into product development and probably getting into software engineering and getting towards the digital engineering part. So that's the
Yeah,
journey that we have seen in the last 20 years. And also some of the things that made this journey happen, which is if you really go back and look at fundamentally, it is the confidence in Fortune 1000 companies that working in India will ensure their IP is safe and secure. And they kind of see that there is a talent pool which is capable, which is English speaking, and which can really address many of the global requirements in terms of regulations and the ability to understand various customer requirements and the ability to design products for different industry segments, and which is essentially about the scalable supply. And the third part, we continue to deliver value either in the form of speed to market, productivity, and there are some of the analyst report which kind of brings out that from the engineering that runs out of India, there is at least about 40 to 50 billion dollars of savings every year. And this is
yeah,
something which is a tremendous value that we generate. What we also mean is it is not about doing it cheap, but it is about reducing the R&D efforts or making the R&D efficiency in terms of the dollar that is being spent on R&D, how much they can get as a measurable outcome. So those are the things that really made this journey sustainable. And I still feel the best is yet to come. I'm sure we are really excited to be part of this journey together, and we see that this can only get better as we see for the next decade.
yeah. So it's so exciting because we have like 8 hours of sessions with 20 plus sessions, 40 plus global engineering leaders from all different verticals talking about what is in future, what is in store for us. So I'm really looking forward to this myself, looking forward to attending, and hopefully many people join and learn from that. I think we earlier we talked about learnability. Hey, by the way, I think it's going to be free, right? Is this entry free?
Yeah, no, absolutely. If I'm
Okay,
an
all right.
engineer, I would love to block my 2 days just to make sure that I'm there for the summit.
Yeah, and it's free. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you so much, Ajay. It's been a truly insightful session. And I personally believe India's time has come, and we definitely have a great opportunity to make an impact in the global innovation ecosystem. And this is being built up over the last 2 decades, and which is still in the adult form of growth. I think this still has to grow to be something big and large. And there is a huge, large talent pool that is available in the country, and this is going to be very important for the global 1,000 customers to look at with strategic relevance and importance, and to choose India as an engineering hub and engineering destination of choice. And we can't wait for the event. Let's start to learn and engage global experts. About 40 of them are lined up to exchange their ideas and hear from many of our peers. And this is going to be a great session. So don't miss out, and see you all on the NASSCOM Design and Engineering Summit on 23rd and 24th, and scheduled between 4 to 8:30 p.m. on both the days IST. And this is also the first event that we are doing globally, virtually, and for many first to quote on the 12th event. So thank you so much, Ajay, and it's a pleasure to talk to you again.
Thanks, Karthik. I think our engineers, I hope, make the right choice on Wednesday and Thursday evening. I hope they join the engineering summit instead of attending the IPL games. So that's what I'm looking
Absolutely.
for.
Absolutely.
Okay, bye,
And there is,
Karthik.
thank you so much, and have a good day. Bye bye.
Bye, bye, bye.
Thank you.